Welcome to another presentation of the Online ColdFusion Meetup. I'm Charlie Earhart, and I'll be your host for the next hour or so. And in this edition of the Meetup, our 309th, on Thursday, August 15th, 2024 at noon U.S. Eastern, we've got Luis Majano and Brad Wood on getting started with BoxLang runtimes. So cool stuff. We'll get started with that in just a moment. Just want to remind everybody who doesn't come to the Meetups too often, if you look at the bottom screen, you can see that the Meetup URL is coldfusionmeetup.com, and the recordings are available on YouTube. This meeting is being recorded. When it's over, anybody can go to the YouTube URL that you're using right now, but they're also posted on recordings.coldfusionmeetup.com, and that takes you to mycarehart.org site and the UGTV section and just focuses on all the talks that are Meetup talks, so that's cool. And then if you're interested ever in presenting, just go to speak.coldfusionmeetup.com, and it's a blog post of mine that talks about what goes on. It's pretty straightforward and easy, as these guys have found out today. And so with that, we'll go ahead and turn it over to Luis. Thanks very much, you guys, for coming on.
Thank you. Appreciate it. So I can't see the comments here, Charlie, so because I have the presenter mode on that screen. So if there's anything, just let me know, and
okay,
we'll answer some of those questions.
Cool.
All right. Well, thank you for hosting us. This presentation is called The Future is Dynamic. It's going to have several parts. My name is Luis Majano. I'm the CEO of Ortus Solutions. I'm a computer engineer by trade, creator of all things Box, and some people still call me documentation weirdo. But I think before we get started, I think it's important to know, what are we going to be showcasing today, and some of the things that we have built, and then kind of dive into some hands-on with Brad and myself. So BoxLang, this is something that we've released for quite some time now. It is a modular dynamic language for the JVM, and we've made it in such a way to make you productive, expressive, and functional. And our key phrase here is available everywhere, and we'll see why. And of course, a lot of people have asked us, why did we do this? What was the intent, right? And, why not just fork or keep higher collaborations? Why build a new language, and why now, right? And I think that as you go through this presentation, you will see that the way that we tackled the problems for our clients and what we wanted to accomplish, the only solution was to build a new language. So we'll go through some of those, and of course, everybody's willing to ask anything. We're open to answer. To give you a little state of what we've been doing and show you the major pieces around BoxLang, we started this project on July of 2023, last year. What became an open beta this May 16th at Into the Box. It's literally going to be 3 months to this day since we released our first open beta. It's been quite a ride so far for the last 3 months. It's been very hectic. We've had over 100 pull requests, almost 10,000 downloads. We have almost 35 repositories, about 22 modules already completed, several in development and planning. And we started doing beta releases every week, every Friday. And so far, we are going to go on our 10th beta release tomorrow. So we are going strong. And every week for 10 weeks, we have been developing and continuing to push this forward. We have a lot of modules completed already. As you can see on the left-hand side, there are still some modules that are in development. The ORM, based on Hibernate, is fully on development at this point. We're going to be starting a few of them in the coming weeks here, which is forms, charting, and FTP, mostly to bring compatibility from our clients migrating from Adobe. Some modules that are still in development, in planning. Excuse me. And some of the plus and plus modules are already in the works. So lots of going on here at Ortus. In terms of compatibility, as you will see, how we've designed BoxLang, we have a dual parser. This allows us to actually break off from the CFML world into BoxLang. We are claiming 99% at this point because we are only taking in things that don't work, but most everything should work in terms of parsing your CFML code, as we'll see and Brad will discuss. Core BIS, we are at 99%. We have about 3 BIS only that we're missing in terms of compatibility of what we designed as core. and we're 100% at core tags, or what we're calling components. We are targeting right now a stable release for fall, and offering an exclusive visionary license as well for those people that want to get into this before we do our stable release. All right, so before we get started with BoxLang, I think it's a little bit interesting to do an introduction on its features and how we've designed it in order for you to see how it's going to work for you. So we started with several goals and visions for the project. We definitely wanted to be dynamic, of course, modular, lightweight, and very fast. 100% interoperable with Java. This was a hugely important issue for us. To be modern, to be functional and fluent. Basically, where polyglots at Ortus, we wanted to bring all of those experiences into the language that we wanted to design. Modularity at its core. We've been building, for example, ColdFusion for more than 18 years now, and we've learned a lot in building modular systems. We wanted to bring that functionality into BoxLang and taking advantages of the modern JVM. And of course, we love testing here at Ortus, and it is quite impressive, as Brad will show you, that we have probably even more tests than commits. So every single thing is tested within the language. And the next step, it was important to bring it to modern times, which was to support multiple runtimes. And the other one is to support multiple transpilers. And this is where we get into our multi-parser approach, that we really wanted to bring in other languages into BoxLang and make it seamless. And of course, IDE and tooling was at probably the first point that we've addressed. And it is incredibly important, and we've done great strides in what we'll show you today a little bit into our IDE. And of course, all our libraries needed to run, and we wanted to keep that compatibility for people to start immediately working with BoxLang. So I'll take you through a few key features, demo the getting started on the IDE and getting started on the MiniServer. And then Brad will go deep a little bit into multi-parsers and getting started on other areas. So to start, this was one of the biggest goals for us, is to design something for the modern times that we live in. We didn't want to start with the web. We started with the bare metal. So we designed BoxLang to work at any operating system level, regardless of what it may be, as long as it can run JVM. And we built the entire language, and our runtime is about 6 megabytes. This is incredibly small, incredibly lightweight, the entire language. Just to compare it, if you download, for example, Node, it's about 70 megabytes. So very, very small, very lightweight. And then we decided to create all the different runtimes and start decorating the core so we can start deploying into multiple locations. So Docker, of course, MiniServer, something that I'll be showcasing today. It's basically Brad Wood's creation to be able to have a lightweight Java server whenever we need one. Of course, CommandBox for enterprise applications, servlet deployment. So that's if you're just adhering to the servlet specs. Lambdas, another one important for us to be able to do serverless deployments, and 3 more runtimes that are coming soon, which is Azure, Android, and WebAssembly. These are still coming. They're going to come after our after our stable release, targeting for 2025. Doesn't mean that you can't use it. You can use it on those platforms already. It just means that we have not officially released an official SDK for them. And of course, all of them are very extremely lightweight. Hopefully, we'll have enough time to show you this runtime today and how to get started with Lambdas. So this was something we did in our retreat, and it turned out to be a very nice project called try.boxlang.io. So if you go to try.boxlang.io, you will be presented with our something very similar to CF live.com. And this allows you to basically code on your browser and execute your code and get an evaluation. So all this was built. This was our first production applications using BoxLang. And it was built basically as an internet playground. And it's 2 microservices. One, which is the UI, based on the actual CommandBox Docker container, and then the Lambdas. And this was very, very important for us because we never have to worry about how many instances we have, how many people are on the site. any queuing, none of that. We basically have completely have the ability to scale this as much as we want. And a lot of features came out of basically just doing the serverless deployment into the core. So hopefully we'll have enough time for me to actually show you how to get started with the runtime. On strict dependency graph, this is just something that we built BoxLang to be as lightweight as possible. We're very strict when it comes down to dependencies. We have a whole committee in order for you to even add one single jar into the dependency graph, because the majority of things we want to be done as modules. This obviously lowers the surface attack area. It adheres to our extremely small distribution, and then we grow via modules. We do rely on the JDK as much as possible, especially the modern JDKs that have everything. JDK 21 is our minimum for BoxLang. Another aspect of the language, which was important for us to distinguish ourselves, was to bring framework capabilities to the language. And this was critical for us. We've been building frameworks for the last 18 years, and we've wanted not only to have a language, but to also have a framework available to developers as they build their applications so they don't have to reinvent the wheel. So we designed the BoxLang framework very similar to how ColdFusion was built, with many parts to assist you at the time of creating your applications, from managing multi-applications in a single deployment to provide you with real asynchronous services and parallel computations based on the JVM, to caching services that are built in and extensible, and you can use third-party caches and you're not restricted or forced to use something. A component service, so actually people can actually collaborate their own components and tagging and implementations. A full data source service and new pools based on modern hierarchy pool computations. A functional service to assist you with all the different functions that are going to be available globally or namespaced. Interceptor service, this was key for us to be able to extend the language through events. And this was the way that we wanted to bring those framework capabilities that were one of the best features of ColdFusion into the language itself. There are tons of events being fired, and you can listen and extend the language as you see fit. And of course, our own modular service, we did not use OSGI. We've learned our lessons of when and when not to use OSGI. So we decided to basically port what we had done with ColdFusion into the actual language. And of course, scheduling, very important for us developers, is to bring all those human and fluent approaches to scheduling and tasks that we had built before into the language itself. So you will have all these capabilities apart from the language to assist you. So I'm going to skip through some of these slides very quickly, but just to give you an idea that you have basically, we ported CacheBox basically into an enterprise caching engine powered by BoxLang with all kinds of extension points, statistics, events, and it powers pretty much everything inside of BoxLang already. Okay? Your sessions, your client scope, all that is powered by these caches. And therefore, that means that you can change it. And you can actually store your sessions very easily on distributed caches, files, JDBC, anything you would like very, very easily. Our scheduling and task framework that we have built for many years now is available to you. It is not based on HTTP if you don't want to. You can actually code and create schedulers, right? They are very portable. They can be source controlled. It leverages the full task and completable futures framework from the JDK. You have access to any executor. Even virtual threads are available to you. So you can very easily create tasks. Like you can see on the screenshot, very easily you can do these types of scheduled tasks. And of course, a task visualizer that we're building for BoxLang subscriptions as well. And of course, our importer for CF schedules is on the works already as well. So we have planned lots of things to be able to assist you when it comes to scheduling and task frameworking. Scheduled for 2025, an administrator will be available. Right now, there is no administrator. Everything is based on ONS, operating system installation or the different runtimes. But an administrator will be developed. This is targeted after our stable release. We already have our mockups and UI for it. Based on a Quasar administrator. So you're going to have different types of deployment for the administrator to help you manage pretty much anything at the operating system installation or a CommandBox installation or a MiniServer installation. We also have several hooks into our IDE. And this is where we come, kind of the first part of the demo here, in tooling. And this was one of the most important things, if not the most important thing after the language, is to provide developers with the right tools. This was essential for us. We focused on two areas, Visual Studio Code and the CLI. So if we start with Visual Studio Code, we have our own IDE. Important to note that not only does BoxLang IDE work for BoxLang, but it works for CFML as well. Our focus, of course, is to bring everything that we had done through time, through ColdFusion and CFML, and adapt it in our BoxLang IDE as well. So the idea is that this IDE will talk to both languages and manage both languages and assist you with both languages. We built a language debugger. We built a language server protocol, so you can actually completely parse your code in the runtime. And you'll see, I'll explain a little bit about that as well. You can run classes, you can run scripts, or you can run and manage servers now. I'll show that as well. We have started a lot of code converters and code formatters. I'll show you a little bit of those as well. And we're venturing into code quality metrics and visualizers now that we have the power to do so. We also have several CLI tools available to you. We have a full REPL available to you. I'll show you how to get started on that as well. We have shebang scripts. This is something new that was introduced during our betas. This allows you to do shebang scripting on BoxLang, as you can see, very easily on any Unix-capable system. You can run files. Right now, probably for beta 11, you will have the capability to run your schedulers as well. We have the ability to convert your code from CFML to BoxLang with our transpiler. Our compiler as well is available. So this means that you can actually compile into sourceless deployment. Our feature audit tool as well. If you want to know if your code is ready to run on BoxLang, well, just run the feature audit tool and it will show you a report of what is compatible and what is not. And eventually we'll get to our packager, which will compile and package either your modules or your applications very, very easily. So we'll see the IDE a little bit today. I'll give you a little bit of demo how to get started with it. It follows the traditional modern development flows, inline documentation, web servers panel that'll show you. Again, important, it works for BoxLang and CFML. You don't have to have any other extension installed. And thanks to all those folks that did the work before us, this one we did fork to start and give us a kickstart. And it'll run the BoxLang or ColdFusion code directly within VS Code. You can use debugging on both languages as well, but of course on our own language servers. So that was important for us. The BoxLang debugger, I'll show you a screenshot right now because I was messing around with my VS Code installation and I completely borked my debugger today. So I'll show you a few screenshots here and explain to you, but this is, if you do it on your machine, it should work. It basically allows you to debug or add breakpoints in your code at any position, run that piece of code either inside of the editor or through our MiniServer, and you will get debugging purposes available to you. So you can get a debug panel, as you can see here on the right. You can see the breakpoint. You'll see where it stopped. It'll give you all the variables at that point of execution, and it'll allow you to choose what you want to do at that point. You can go and navigate into method calls, navigate out of method calls, replay things, change variables, the works. So very, very nice for you, and hopefully never use write dump again if you really have an issue. Our language server was also very, very important for us to build. This is actually another runtime, believe it or not. So the entire language is built into VS Code, okay? And that's what powers the language server protocol, okay? So this gives us complete access to the language, to the syntax parser, and to the compiler. So we can actually look at your code and it will tell you in real time, it will parse it and give you everything around that code. And so that's where we can give you code metrics and all kinds of static analysis if we need to. So this was a real foundation for us and a real game changer for us. I've been doing ColdFusion for a long time, is that we basically are building all the things that we always wanted. Okay. So with that, maybe I'll stop for a little Q&A and maybe give you a getting started with the IDE and give you the lay of the land with the IDE and the MiniServer. So let me get out of here and see if there's any questions.
Nope, no questions so far. Though if anybody has them and been holding off, feel free.
Okay, I'll give them 10 seconds while I drink a little water here.
There you go.
Okay, so let's get started a little bit. So Charlie, Brad, can you confirm my ID screen? I think I see it.
Yep.
All right, perfect. So when you go to extensions to get started, it's very easy. Just search for BoxLang. You will get here our BoxLang language support. Just go ahead and install it. You can see we're on version 1.3.2. Okay, and we're starting to write all the documentation for it and all the things that you can do with it. Okay, once you do and you start a new project, I have a project here called demo. And as soon as I open it, it'll tell you that the BoxLang language server has been up. If you do the command palette and search for BoxLang, you'll get several different things available to you. You'll get the output version info, run a web server. You can show the view. You can run a file, a bunch of things that are available to you. Okay, and we're going to see some of those as we traverse here. But let's start here with a folder called IDE. You will see that it gives me little icons and little folder packages for the different things that I'm building, right? Here's a main class. Let's start with number 1 here. So I've opened a class. You'll see that if this was CFML, basically would create another file called main class.cfc. And you can see that it'll change the icon for me to bring it into that I'm working with CFML. So I could probably copy here, and obviously this won't work for CFML, but it'll give me the syntax highlighting for ColdFusion and help you also with ColdFusion. So important to note that you can mix and match both, and it'll help you with both. Okay, so you can see here, here's my main class, and BoxLang classes is the way to go. We're not calling them components, we're calling them classes like every other language. Therefore, you will see the class a keyword here in order for you to start the actual class. You can also see that we've done some interesting imports here. This is our Java interop that Brad will discuss. We can actually tap into the JVM just like if you're in Java. There are no bridges. There's nothing hoops to go through. You can actually just say, hey, I want to use the instance class in Java, and I can use it. I can just import it. I have my static import available to me, and I can execute it now and get today. Okay, I can have a main function on my class. Okay, I can no semicolons, just like we've used to in ColdFusion as well. And we have introduced a new print line here available to you, which is kind of like a system output. We've kind of addressed it to have consistency in everything that we do with printing and output. And just like we're used to, we can do this. But now in the IDE, when I have a class like this, I can right click and I can say, okay, I want to run this file. We've also added several tools here for us working with the language, or anybody interested in working with the language. We've created several tooling to allow you to create different things, from the Antler graphs to the BoxLang AST graph to transpile to Java. So this was really important for us in order to see what we're building actually works, that we can actually right click and say, hey, I want to see the Java representation of this class because I want to debug it or I want to assist the developers. As you can see, it completely converted my ColdFusion or my BoxLang, code into the equivalent of what the Java compile code would look like. Okay, not the compile code, sorry, the Java normal code. Okay, not the bytecode. So this is really, really useful. So we've added lots of toolings to assist developers and to see what's going on with the different aspects of the language. Right, let's see if this one works for the AST graph. Oh, that's the Antler one. Let's look at the BoxLang one. I don't have Antler installed in this machine. But you can see here that it basically, we've written a lot of tools to assist in the language as well, which really no other language has something like that. We can see here that we started with the script. We have several statements here. Here you can see the expression from an age, the plus, the print line. So all these tooling is available to make life easier for us as developers into the language. And I can definitely say that we have never seen this in other languages. So the IDE is crucial for us not only for developing, but actually developing the language itself. Like I said, we can also run files. So this is just like any other language, like Python or Groovy or Java or any other language except ColdFusion. We can actually run a file, right? Here in the text that I have arguments incoming into my main class. So I can say Luis, and it will basically try to execute that source code, compile it for you, and there you go. It's executing for me with that Java interop right within here in my IDE. So this is something important that we wanted, is the experience for developers to start working very, very easily with their code and executing it. And the whole testing framework is going to be also included into the IDE as well. So you can actually create tests and basically have little play buttons right here and say, hey, I want you to play this test. So those are how classes look like in CJM main class. We've also ventured into diagnostics. This is something that you're going to have to enable for now as an experimental feature. So if we actually go to preferences and we go to BoxLang, there should be an experimental part right here somewhere. I cannot remember. Here, enabled experimental diagnostics. If you enable this, we're going to start giving you a little bit of the static analysis that we can do now. So I have it enabled, and it's useful. It's still not perfect, but it's getting there. First example, I have here a function that returns a string, and I say hello, but I'm returning a numeric. And you can see it gives me my squiggly mark, and it says, consider changing the return type of this function or converting the return value to a string. Now, obviously, in the beauty of a dynamic language is that this will still work because it will convert this and autocast it, thanks to Brad's magical autocasters, and change it to a string. But however, maybe we did not want that, right? So it's starting to give you this problems area, and it'll start giving you basically, hey, say, consider changing it if you want to, right? So if I wanted to say, okay, no, I really wanted to do numeric, then of course I fix my issue, right? If I want to keep my string, then maybe I'm going to go ahead and actually quote it. And immediately, as you can see, my language server protocol detected it, parsed it, and helped me during my diagnostics. So this is something that we're starting to venture into, and you start seeing as we progress our releases, that you're going to start seeing more diagnostics and more features for you to turn on and off. Okay, so important, right? Like I said, my debugger, I completely borked it before this session. So the demo gods are not going to help me here, but I'll show you how to get it done and then how to get it working. So you code as usual. So let's say that this, now remember, we're not coding in a web application right now. We're coding on a pure CLI or operating system application. Okay, they have the difference now. And you can see here, I've done an array. I've done a normal B, I've created a function, and I can add breakpoints just by easily clicking anywhere I want to break. So I say I want to break here, and I want to break here, right? And all you would have to do is right-click and say run. That's it. This will actually go into the debugger. It'll open here the debugger. Right now, you'll see that there's my breakpoints, but I borked it, and it's continuous operating instead of stopping. You can see that it actually gives me my output right here. But in your system that is not broken, you will actually see those breakpoints where you will stop and you will see the actual debugger. Okay, so maybe Brad will have it in his computer. Mine's borked right now. Okay, another important aspect that you will see, just to showcase BoxLang, is that anything that you send to the print line, any BoxLang type, so this could be arrays, structures, queries, classes, anything, will actually serialize to the output. So you don't have to do anything. We'll grab it, even if it's complex, and we'll get a string representation out of it. Makes your life easier when debugging things. Okay. So now this is basically introduction into getting started at the CLI level, right? At the operating system level. Maybe you're creating a schedule, you're creating a task, you're creating a little tool, anything that BoxLang allows you to do. Maybe you're integrating with a language model, etc. The next one is the MiniServer. So let's say we want to move into web applications. We're not into CommandBox just yet. We want to create just a simple web application that we want to deploy. You can see here we have the same concepts as ColdFusion as application.cfc. We have application.bx. Obviously, not a lot of going on here. I have an index.bxm. So as you can see, they're called bxm, not CFML templates, with our prefix of bx. Okay. Again, just like traditional CFML, but however, with our MiniServer here, we now have a BoxLang icon, which allows us to create as many servers or mini-servers as we want. And we'll also have here a division later on that will show you your BoxLang CommandBox servers. So CommandBox will also be part of this and getting integrated into the ecosystem. And you're going to be able to manage also your CommandBox servers as well from here. You can create BoxLang servers very easily by clicking Add Server, and it'll take you through a wizard and create it for you. Okay. However, I'm going to go the easy route. I'm just going to click on the folder and say, hey, I want to run a mini server here. So I can say I want port 8080, and that's it. It's going to start creating my server, and it opened it in the other window. So I'll bring it here, and there it is. That's how fast it started. Real time. I haven't done anything. I haven't pre-done anything. I just started it, and there it is. I'll do it again because it probably was too fast, just so you can see that it actually is real. I'm going to go to the BoxLang mini server. You can see here it's running. I'm going to stop it. Okay, and I'm going to completely delete it. It's gone. Not in use anymore. It's completely gone. I'm going to do it again. Hopefully this time the Chrome is going to open on this page and not on the other screen. Run, and port 80. There it is. You can see it's starting the box for runtime, and we're done. And I still opened it in the next window, but we'll bring it here. So you can see here that it created my web application right here. I can execute my web application, go to my test BXM file, right, et cetera, et cetera. So very easily you can get started in creating. It'll give you some output right here. It'll tell you, okay, I started the web root right here on this port, right, and I've started my server. So you can see here, my server is running. Here are my specifications of my mini server, right? The cool thing is that I can also do breakpoints here. Again, I broke them, but I can show you how to get started with this. You can choose your breakpoints in whatever page you want, whatever class you want, whatever include you want. And then you just basically click the little bug and say, hey, I want to debug that server. And you'll see the debug turns on, and now it's ready for debugging. You'll see right now all the different breakpoints that are available to me. And once you go into that web server, it should do it. Again, let's try. Let's see if it breaks or not. Hopefully it will work, but I can't guarantee it. Where did it go? Oh, here we go. And let's go to index.bxm. And no, it's not working. But anyways, once you hit that page, it's going to go into debugging mode, and you're going to see your variables, your watchers, your call stack. Everything's going to be available to you. And you're going to be debugging the mini server right there and then. If you're done, if you don't want to be debugging in debug mode, then you can go ahead and turn the debug server right here and say, hey, I want to disconnect. And boom, there we go. So we have now the technology available through BoxLang to be able to debug a server remotely. Okay, so this is for our mini servers. We're going to be introducing this to our production servers later on, where you can attach yourself a debugger into that production running application and get even more things out of it. So this is a brave new world available to you, hopefully soon as well. So that's very easy to get started with the mini servers. Then this becomes just a traditional BoxLang server. You can start creating classes, start creating applications, start creating everything just like if you're doing your normal applications very, very easily. Once your working stop, then you can stop your server and you are done with your server. You want to start it up again, you can hit the play button and you can see here it starts, and there we go. In 1.6 milliseconds, we are ready to roll with our new server. Okay. So this is an introduction into getting started with the IDE. You can do tons of things with the IDE, full applications with the IDE, and you'll start seeing a lot of little goodies from especially dumps. When doing Java classes, you're going to get a lot of cool things when doing Java classes as well in your dumps. Let's try it. Let's see if I can do it. Let's see if I don't break this, Brad. What do you think, Brad? I'm going to break this.
Totally going to break it. 100%.
All right, give me a Java Give me a Java class, Brad. Let's see.
JavaLang string.
Oh, you went with the easy route. All right, let's see if we can get this out. Oh, there we go. Oh, it stopped my server, right? Start it up again. Oh no, it's running. Good. All right, let's see if I broke it. I probably did break it. Oh, did the debugger kick in that time? No, it didn't. All right, here we go. So here's a Java class. And on Java classes, you'll get a little bit more information. You'll get some annotations. You're going to get a very nice signature of all the methods inside of those classes available to you. Okay. And in some other areas, you can actually just get snippets of code that you can copy as well. And the actual toString evaluations as well available to you. So if you have a Java class and you want to basically know its toString implementation, you can also do that. So if I do here and say, hola, Luis, and Brad, and Charlie, right? It's going to try also to evaluate those toStrings. So in some Java classes, there you go. Now it changes. See, it detects this as a string and it'll give me my representation. So BoxLang is really smart in this way that it tries to see what the best representation available for a specific object, and it will show it to you as it sees fit. So just a little deviation there, and thankfully it worked. Right. All right, let me stop this. And that is it for me in this part. And let me move it over now to Brad and to give you more information and more things about BoxLang. Brad, do you want the slides or do you want to just go at it with your demos?
I will go at it with my demos, as they say. Charlie should be able to switch it over to my share.
Okay, so I don't click stop sharing then?
It's already done. You don't need to stop sharing as soon as I make his screen show up. Yours just is there. I can click back on it whenever you want.
You are magical,
Sharing
Charlie.
forever.
StreamYard's magical. You're magical and StreamYard's magical. Brad's magical. I'm following your footsteps.
Awesome. I was just over here playing with a debugger. I was just talking with Jacob while you're presenting, and there was a little regression with the debugger that should be fixed soon. So that's why you were having some problems. All right, let me delete some of these test files. All right, so Luis showed you the kind of the overview of BoxLang. And by the way, I do also have the comments up, so feel free to slam any comments in there. I have a monitor I'm watching them on. Luis showed you kind of the basics of BoxLang, what we've done, how it works. There's obviously a lot more than that, but that's what we get for today. Turn off my Slack stuff here. We talked about the VS Code extension, and let's move on now to what you guys need to do if you want to play with BoxLang. Like we talked about, BoxLang has two separate parsers. We have our own language that we've made that's basically ColdFusion, but what it would be if we were to remake it today, which is very close to ColdFusion, but we've kind of renamed stuff that was never named right. We've taken out junk that didn't really fit. We've tweaked stuff that always should have been a little bit different. But then we also still support ColdFusion exactly as Adobe and Lucy do. So you're probably more interested in taking some existing ColdFusion code and just running that and wanting it to run as it is. Maybe down the road, you can mess around with some of the cool new fun features that we have, like importing Java classes directly and stuff like that. VS Code really is the fastest way if you just want to play around with BoxLang and you want to install like as little as possible. Like Luis had shown, just slamming in this BoxLang extension, you can right there out of the gate run files and you can start servers. Crazy easy. This is actually a little test file I was playing with. It says welcome to BoxLang if true, output now. And I can right click and I can say BoxLang run file. My Slack is still open even after closing it. Slack loves to be open. There we go. You can right click and you can run files from inside of here. Did I actually run it? I thought I ran it. Yeah. And so, it's outputting in the console, welcome to BoxLang. And when you run a file like this, it's not running inside of a web server. It's actually just executing it directly from the command line. Like if you were to run a Python script or a Node script or something directly from the command line. And then, of course, the MiniServer Luis showed you is also insanely easy. You come over to the little BoxLang icon. You can say, give me a new server, default to the current directory, port 8080, sure, why not? Start it up, and then we get the server started. And that was literally like 1 second start time. And it's the same script I just ran in the console, but right on the side of my browser. So that's probably the shortest distance between two lines or between 2 points. The straight line is just to start with the VS Code extension. The main requirement is you just need to have Java 21. You need to have a Java JDK installed for the extension to use. So if you want to actually just download BoxLang to play around with, we have several different downloads. So I wanted to show you a couple quick things on the website. This is boxlang.io. First of all, we have try.boxlang.io, which is sort of our version of try CF or whatever. And you can run BoxLang code in here. And for what it's worth, this does use, this is actual BoxLang syntax, which, as you can tell, looks nearly identical to ColdFusion. But if you want to play around with some of the new BoxLang features, you can do that. And these actually use our AWS Lambdas, which Luis will hopefully have a little bit of time to show you at the end of the call. So every time I click run, it's actually shooting my code off to a Lambda function to execute it. So back to the main homepage for BoxLang, we have a bunch of different runtimes, a bunch of different downloads, rather. We have our runtime downloads, we have our module downloads, and we have our tools. The only tool right now is basically VS Code, which if you want to, you don't really need to download it from here. You can just install it directly from VS Code, but we do have a link there for you. The modules are all of our modular architecture, just like Adobe and Lucy have. We've broken things like PDF or image or sending emails into their own separate modules. You can install those, and I'll show you how you can go about installing those soon. And then we have basically the runtime. So if you wanted to play around with just the BoxLang command line, like you would install Node or Python and just start playing around with the command line, then that would be our OS runtime, right? And you can download this. We have just a standalone jar file, and that's kind of the cool thing about BoxLang is the entire BoxLang jar is literally like 6 megabytes. Like that's it. The parser, the compiler, it's all that tiny. So we know you're familiar with how much hard drive space it can take to install a ColdFusion engine. We can run your ColdFusion code at a fraction of the size. And then we also have a Windows installer, which basically just installs the jar and sets up some system path environment variables for you and some batch scripts and some kind of cool. I think we need to have some right-click integrations. So that's what the installer is. The Docker containers are here. We also have information on CommandBox. We have our package for creating AWS Lambdas that you can play with. So if you download the jar, I've already downloaded the jar, and I've just slapped it into a directory here. I actually built this jar locally, BoxLang 1.0 snapshot. And again, just because I love looking at it, here is the entirety of the BoxLang runtime, 6 megabytes. That's it. And BoxLang doesn't really unpack itself. It will put some configuration files in your user home directory. So for me, under users Brad .boxlang, it'll kind of stick some stuff here, like log files, configuration files, compile class files will go under here. But there's really no other jar. It's just the main jar that I'm executing. And so I also tossed a little batch file just so I wouldn't have to type Java jar every time, because that was a little lame. So to run the command line version of BoxLang, if you just run the jar with no other arguments, we drop you into our REPL, right? So REPL stands for read, evaluate, print loop, and it's just a little interactive interface where you can type code and it executes it. So you type 2 + 2, you get 4, right? You say echo Luis, you get Luis output to the screen. So you can basically run any sort of BoxLang or ColdFusion expression inside of here, and you get the output. This is just like the REPL that CommandBox has, except for this one runs on BoxLang. So when we're done, we can hit Control-C to jump out of there. The second thing we can do is you can also just run code directly from here. This is something that like Python and Node also do. You can just say -C for code, and you can just pass in a chunk of code like 2 + 2, right? And it'll compile it and it'll run that on the fly. You can also pipe in code from a file to execute, or you can just execute a file directly. And this is basically what I was doing earlier when we would right click and say run from VS Code. Behind the scenes, this is all that's happening. It's just saying BoxLang execute my index.cfm file. And here we have the output from that. So again, there's no web server here. We're just invoking this directly from the jar. And you can see it's super fast. BoxLang starts up in just a couple hundred milliseconds. Everything is super tiny and super small. And that was one of our main driving factors, is we wanted ColdFusion to be able to be the proper command line language that pretty much every other language in existence is, right? People use Ruby, they use Java, they use Python, they use Kotlin, they use Node. They use all these languages for command line tools. And we wanted ColdFusion to be as small and lightweight as all those other languages, even smaller, so you could do these nice, easy things from the command line. So there's some more stuff built into the command line. I have a couple random files flopping around this directory. I have my index.cfm we've been looking at. I have a little class, just a ColdFusion class, comment, a little singleton annotation. I got a function in here. I'm using a handful of built-in functions. And then I also just have another template which has HTTP call and a CF client tag. In case you're curious, did they implement CF client in BoxLang? No, we absolutely did not. And I'll show you why I use that example here in just a minute. So we have the ability to actually audit your code for you and tell you all the tags, we call them components, all the components and built-in functions you're using, and then tell you which ones we don't support yet. Because the first thing you're probably thinking is, how much of my application will run on BoxLang, right? How could I possibly go about figuring this out? With the open source parser that we've built into BoxLang, we have, I think Luis showed the graph of it. We have an abstract syntax tree, or an AST, which basically represents code. Every variable, every expression, every if statement, every loop is all represented as sort of a hierarchy of objects. And then that is incredibly powerful, because all of our code kind of quality metrics that we're doing inside of the IDE, all of our transpiler, all of our feature auditing, all of our pretty printing is all based on this AST. This is what allows us to transpile seamlessly from ColdFusion over to BoxLang, and it's really some pretty fun stuff. So the first thing we can do is we can audit all of the features in a code base. So I can say BoxLang feature audit, and it will scan by default all the directories in the folder, unless I give it a source path of something else, and it'll tell me what we're calling each of those files. So it parsed the 3 ColdFusion files I have. It says we're calling the HTTP component on line 1 of this file. We've got a missing client component, and again, we're calling tags components. On line 3, I've got an output component on line 2. I've got the now BIF on line 4. I've got the missing get printer list BIF, right? We're not supporting that one yet. On line 6, I got the uppercase BIF and the trim BIF, both on line 7. So it's kind of giving me an overview. Now, if you run this against a folder with like 1,000 files, you'll have a redonkulous amount of output that you're not going to want to deal with. So we have a bunch of flags to help out with this. I can say, just show me the missing things, right? So, okay, who cares about uppercase and trim and now? Those are all supported. CF client's missing and get printer list is missing. And then I can go even further and I can say, all right, aggregate those results across all my files and just give me a summary at the end. And it'll say, okay, parse through the files. We parse 3 files, 1 CFC, 2 CFMs, and this is specifically what you're missing that BoxLang does not support. And then I actually, see if I can get the syntax right. I didn't test this one ahead of time. I think it's report file. Crap, I don't trust myself. I'm going to go look it up real quick because I'm going to type it wrong. Feature audit. What's the name of that parameter? It is report file. I should have trusted myself. I can say report file, report.csv, and it'll actually parse my entire folder of code, and it'll dump a little report that you can put into Excel or some other thing. And then you can actually tell everything that we don't support yet that you need. So I'm doing this for clients right now, already looking to move to BoxLang. They give me a repo with thousands of lines of code. I crank over or the feature audit, dump it into a CSV file, and then we're like, okay, you've got 1,000 instances of the evaluate function, but that's fine. We have the evaluate module, so that'll add that one in. And this can basically let you kind of just look through your code right now. So the feature audit tool, I actually have been recommending people to run it against their code and just send me the CSV if you're comfortable with that, because that kind of helps us gauge what people are using out there and what's the most important thing, because I can kind of see based on the count, how common some of these functions are out there in the wild, and that helps, influence what we have. The next thing we can do is we can actually transpile your ColdFusion code automatically to BoxLang code. If you want to play around with a new BoxLang syntax, you want to see what that looks like. And so we have wrong window. I can say BoxLang CF transpile. Got to spell it right. Transpile. There we go. And then I'm going to need to give it a target location. And so I'm going to just say put it in the current directory, right? So it cranked through all my CFM, CFC, CFS files, and it spit out BXM, BoxLang markup, and BX for class files, right? So CFS turns into BXS, CFM turns into BXM, and CFC just turns into BX, right? So now in my current working directory, I have two of each file. I have my index.cfm with ColdFusion code. In here, I have my index.bxm, which was automatically transpiled for me. And now we have our BoxLang markup for tags, which you can see instead of using CF, we use BX colon in our source code. My class has gone from component to the actual class keyword, which is what we're using in BoxLang, because if we were to make ColdFusion today, we'd probably just use the word class. And you notice that my singleton annotation is actually a proper annotation now, because BoxLang syntax supports actual proper annotations. And for compatibility, BoxLang defaults accessors to true and output to false. So to keep your ColdFusion code working the way it worked in ColdFusion, we go ahead and we explicitly say accessors are false, output is true, because that's the way ColdFusion would have worked. So there's all sorts of little transpilation things that happen. If you use struct key exist, we have full null support on by default in BoxLang. So we rewrite struct key exist to be not is null. And we do that all at the AST level. So when we print the code back out, you get the exact same code, but now BoxLangified. And of course, my little my template here turns into, again, BoxLang code, BXHTTP, BX client, right? And we have no plans, in case you're curious, to implement CF client. I just put it in there so you can see it in the feature audit. So that's what the transpiler does. So if you want to play around with what your code would look like in BoxLang, then you can use that. And then finally, we also have the ability to precompile your templates. I'm going to copy and paste this one because the chance of me typing it wrong is high. So we can do BoxLang compile, and you can do an entire directory of code. But in this case, I'm going to say compile the myclass.cfc, and I want you to put it in a compiled folder, and we'll just keep it with the same name, myclass.cfc. And so that precompiles our class into bytecode. And then when we go back and look, we now have a compiled folder with a CFC, which is delicious looking bytecode. So you can basically still deploy precompiled applications. We just do kind of an in-place compilation where you put the bytecode. And Lucy and Adobe basically do the same thing. Adobe has a tool for this. Lucy doesn't. It's kind of a pain to do with Lucy. But that's also kind of a first-class citizen of our CLI. So that's some of the overview of some of the fun stuff the CLI does. Let me move on now to actually starting a server with CommandBox. We showed the MiniServer. We've shown it like 17 times. We like it. We're proud of it. It's fun. It's fast. But you may already be using CommandBox to manage your servers, and you may just want to start it up a CommandBox. The MiniServer is great because it's like insanely simple and fast, but it's also super limited. You get to choose the web root, the port, and like a debug flag, and that's kind of it, right? Like it's just ta-da, simple server. So if you want the full power of CommandBox with SSL search, multiple HTTP bindings, multi-site virtual directories, all the nonsense that CommandBox does, we also have a servlet runtime built, which works seamlessly with CommandBox. So I've already defined the server, because I was starting earlier. So here in my server.json, I have my CF engine set not to Adobe or Lucy, but to BoxLang. And of course, this maps to a ForgeBox entry where we publish our BoxLang artifacts. And then, of course, I do need to set a Java version of Java 21. It needs to be a JDK right now, not a JRE. Once we get our direct-to-bytecode working, which is very close to completion, you'll be able to run this on a JRE, but for now we still do require the JDK. And so with those two settings, this is the same directory we were just looking at. Let me delete those transpiled files just for simplification, get it back down to be CFM files. And then you can start it just like you would any other CommandBox server. So all the CommandBox goodness applies here. We already have CF config support. So if you have things like data sources or mappings, you can import those. And here's our server. It actually starts super fast. So it loads my CF config into the server. So we already have support for that. So if you want to test an application, you need some data sources to run. You do want to make sure that you have the right modules installed. But basically super fast, and you can use it right now inside of CommandBox. In order to install these, like let's say you're using MySQL, right? So you want to install the BX MySQL module. If you already have the server defined here in the directory where my BoxLang server is defined, then I can actually just install it directly. BX MySQL. I'm just installing this down from ForgeBox. Actually, you know what? Let me do that again, but I'm going to use the verbose flag so you can see what happened because it happened so quickly. It'll say, hey, I found the server BoxLang CLI in the current directory. I'm installing this into the BoxLang server home. And so I showed you that home directory under my user home earlier. That's what the CLI used by default. Every CommandBox server also has its own dedicated server home that's separate from just kind of the system server home. And so now I've installed that BX MySQL module into this specific CommandBox server. And now I can use a data source using the MySQL JDBC drivers. If you're wanting to run ColdFusion code, you will for sure probably want the bxcompat one installed. There's quite a bit of stuff in bxcompat. For instance, the server.coldfusion struct does not exist in BoxLang, nor does the server.lucy struct, right? But if you install the bxcompat module, those structs magically appear. And Slack is somehow still sending me notifications. Props to Slack. I don't even know how it does it. It's still running somewhere in the background of my machine. Bless his heart. So there's a lot of stuff baked into the bxcompat that your ColdFusion apps will probably expect to be there. We've renamed some functions like serialized JSON, right? Always had the wrong name. Should have been JSON serialized. That's how ColdFusion works. You have data type, action, array, append, struct, key exists, right? Query, new, JSON serialized. They screwed that one up. We fixed it. So in BoxLang, it's called JSON serialized. But guess what? When you install bxcompat, you can still call serialized JSON because we kick ourselves over into compat mode. That way your ColdFusion code can still work. So you'll definitely want compat. If you're using the evaluate function, you will definitely want to install the bx unsafe evaluate. We had the word unsafe in it because guess what? It's unsafe. So that's in its own function. If you use WDDX, bless your heart, we also have a separate module for that. If you use PDF, you want the PDF module, CFMail, right? Image module. So we have a bunch of these modules already done, and we have a bunch more in progress. But with the help of the feature audit tool, you can kind of see what's not supported out of the box, which modules we need to add in. And it's basically just like starting any other, Lucy or Adobe server, as long as you're familiar with the workflow of CommandBox. So I think that was everything I was going to demo. I got the CLI, I showed all the transpilation, the compiler, feature audit. Yeah, and unless any questions pop in the chat, Luis, are you prepared to give us a quick run through of the AWS Lambda functions? Because we were really excited to be able to do that, and that's something that we really haven't seen official support for in the ColdFusion space yet.
Yes.
All right, awesome.
I'm ready.
All right, flip over to his screen share, please, Charlie.
All right. I guess I can see my screen. Is that correct?
Yes. Yep.
All right. Well, it wouldn't be something if it was not documented. So there goes my documentation weirdo or weirdness. And this one, I really took the time to do it really step by step. So everything is fully documented here. The way to get started with AWS Lambdas and BoxLang is just go to boxlang.ortusbooks.com. You can see under running BoxLang, basically we have the main root, which is installing at the operating system level, the main things about the binary. But then we have all the different runtimes are going to be showing up here. So just as knowing where to look. Okay, so we have Lambda, we have everything that Brad showed in CommandBox here. We have even Chromebooks, an official Chromebooks guide on how to actually work with BoxLang Chromebook, the Docker guide, the JSR223 scripting, the MiniServer, and of course, try BoxLang. So really encourage you that any other runtimes that we address or bring, we're going to be including here under running BoxLang. Okay, so this is the Lambda. I linked to all the places in the docs in AWS. And of course, it describes in detail pretty much all the different things that you have available to you to get started working with Lambdas. Okay, so I'm going to have this as a reference. Maybe we can put it in the comments or something, but I'll be showing you where this guide goes to. So just a little overview. I love pictures, so might as well just show you pictures here of how it works. So remember, the BoxLang runtime basically gets adapted according to where it's deployed. In our case, our method of deployment will be on Lambda. Okay, so the core, I would say, of deploying to Lambda is extremely small. Again, even smaller than Python or than Node. Okay, so how does it look like? Okay, so what you're going to be focusing on is to be building on a piece of execution. I'll go in example, for example, try BoxLang. Okay, we wanted to be able to take your source code and execute it in a runtime and give you the results. Okay, that was our requirements. So let me go here to how we did it. So the try BoxLang is a MiniServer site, and it basically sends your code to our Amazon Web Load Balancer, and it gets distributed between our BoxLang Lambdas. Okay, our Lambdas are basically just a piece of function execution that we want to execute. It has input that it comes like JSON basically, or you decide, and then it basically processes that execution and gives you your output, usually in JSON. Okay, so you can see here the process of what we did is that we take in the code from the try.boxlang.io, we send it to our load balancer, it executes in different Lambdas, and then executes as the source code against our binary, and basically gives you back a result. Okay, very small. Actually, we use about 64 megabytes of RAM. Believe it or not, on that guy, it's about 600 kilobytes. Each of our Lambdas are about 6.5 megabytes, and it works extremely well, extremely fast. And here's the distribution of your source as it goes and traverses, gets executed and compiled back into that BoxLang source code, and then returned to you for results. Okay, so that was our requirement, a perfect scenario for serverless. Okay, so let's go into it. Okay, so let me show you here what we've done. So first of all, to get started, we've created a template, and this is really useful. Here it is, github.com, Ortus BoxLang, BX AWS Lambda template. It is linked as well through here. Okay, so we've done the hard work for you. We've tried to completely document as much as we can everything in the process, from where your Lambda lives, your directory structure, everything that you have available to you. So the first step is that you can come in here. Oh, I forgot to mark this as a template. Why don't we do that now? That way people can actually clone it, and it's a template. There we go. Okay, there you go. Now you get a beautiful button called Use This Template. So now you can say create a new repository or create a new code space, and now you can have this template forked right within your GitHub repositories. Okay, very easy now that I've enabled that little button. All right, so let's go to source code. How is my code? I'll make it a little bit bigger just in case. And here's my README. Okay, and we try to document it as much as possible. I'm not going to go through everything. I'm just going to go through how to get started. This is a hybrid project. Okay, you're going to have to venture a little bit into the Java world here, because the Java runtime is what executes your Lambda. okay, alongside our BoxLang language. So until we get an official thing from Amazon, this is the way it will go. We have several supporting files. You can ignore those for now. The main files I would say to focus on, it will be the box.json and the build.gradle. So box.json is traditional CommandBox dependencies, and this is where you can put in your development dependencies. You can put in more dependencies for your Lambda. So if your Lambda is going to use any other types of dependencies, here's where they would go. Okay. Build.gradle is basically already assembled for you to work with our Lambda runtimes, and it also gives you a section called dependencies. So it's already prepared for you, even the testing and mocking, which I'll go through. But if in the case that your Lambda required a specific Java library that you wanted to leverage, you can basically add it here, and it will package the whole project for you. So all the hard work is done for you. It's just for you to add whatever Java dependencies that you want. And in the README, you will see that there's a few commands available to you to work with the Gradle build process. Okay, you don't have to be an expert at it. You just have to run a few commands to get it to work. We've also added a workbench folder, and this workbench folder is what you can use with the AWS SDKs that you can install on your machine from a little template YAML that we've created for you with the different project and the handler and all these things that you can test on your machine. You can even create an event.json. So this is basically an input that goes into your Lambda. We've generated for you. We've been creating scripts to create a bucket for these things, to deploy it, to invoke it, to do cleanup. So we really put everything that we built for tryboxlang.io is here. And we wanted to make it as easy as possible for people to create their Lambdas, okay? So don't get overwhelmed. There's a lot of stuff here just to help you out. Okay, let's go into the source code and how you can create your own Lambda. So we have source, we have main, and we have test. Again, we are big believers in testing and the TDD process, so you're gonna find tests everywhere, okay? Let's focus on main and open the test, and you'll start seeing the different folders. Main, and then under main is your main source code. There's a BX folder, which denotes BoxLang, and there's your Lambda. There's your beautiful, beautiful, beautiful Lambda called lambda.bx. Very simple class, okay, with one method on it, okay? You will receive 3 arguments on this method for your Lambda. The event, which is not to be confused with the callbox event. I know it looks like it, but it's not. This is actually the Amazon event, and this is documented by Amazon on the Lambda docs, okay? So if you go to the Lambda documentation, there's a developer guide as well, when to use it. It gives you all kinds of things, but you will, it's somewhere in here. I'll actually make it a better link to take you to these 3 contexts. But it gives you basically an event, a context of execution, and their response, okay? And the response is mostly us, okay? That we've created this response for you. If you actually want to delve into the runtime that we're using, okay, you can go here to BoxLang, Ortus BoxLang community, and there's BoxLang AWS Lambda. So this is the actual runtime that we have prepared, okay, for you. And I'll just showcase the Lambdas to make life easier for you, so you don't have to start from scratch. So what we've done in our Lambda runner is that we decided that every input into the Lambdas, okay, let me see where it is, Lambda runner. There we go.
Can you make that a little bit bigger, Luis? Can you zoom in?
Yes, let me just find the right, here.
Also, feel free to hide that little overlay at the bottom of your screen.
Hide. Okay, so before we go into that context and response, we have created the mini framework or the mini runtime for Lambdas. And this is done obviously in Java. I'm showing you some Java code, but this is what we've done at the Ortus team. We have a way to handle the request. And when we've made it to make it easier for creating Lambdas is that we're gonna be receiving the event as a struct. Okay, you can see here it's a map, but we convert it into a struct. So when we actually execute your code, we're gonna give you a struct. So the response is gonna be a struct of this information that you see here, the status code, headers, and body. So we've decided that this is the easiest way. You can use that, or you can just return anything in the response and we'll identify it for you. The context of execution, this is from Amazon, okay? This is not us, this is Amazon. We pass it through as well to you, and the event as well. So you can see here that we convert that map into a struct, and then when we actually invoke your Lambda, right, we're going to pass basically the event struct, okay, which is the incoming arguments that are coming in as a structure, the context object from Amazon, and the response. So when you actually get to work, right, we've done all that hard stuff for you, and we can move on to Visual Studio Code if it shows up. Where is it? No, we got stuck. There we go. So since we've done the hard stuff, right? Actually, maybe I'll even add this so people know that these are structs, okay? And then I'll map the documentation for the context later on here, and I'll add a little bit more docs here for folks to determine what they are. But as you can see here, you're going to receive the event, which is a struct of everything that was passed in. So a sample event was something that we saw here. So this is a JSON object. So this will come as a struct, right? X, Y, and message. And then you'll have a response. And you can see here that I've used the full response, like response.body, right? The status code. And then you can basically return the response as you see fit. Or if you want to return your own data, you can return whatever data you want, and we'll address that as well as we see fit in your Lambda and return it back as JSON. But basically, this is it. You receive one method to implement called run. You receive the 3 arguments, and then inside here is your code. You do whatever you want to do. You can build a PDF. You can create a component. You can do whatever you want right here inside this Lambda, and that's it. Okay. So how to test it? Right. Let's do unit tests first, and then I'll stop there because then the other one will be the deployment. I don't have the Amazon tools installed on my machine. But here under Java.com, my project, obviously rename it as you see fit. We give you 3 Java classes. We give you the unit test class, and we give you 2 mocks. We give you a test context. This is basically mocking the context of what Amazon would give you. You can adjust as you see fit. And we give you also a logger, which is also a mock of what Amazon gives you. And then we give you the runner. And this runner, okay, is available to you. We've already assembled it, and it has 1 method on it, okay? It has a displayment that says test your Lambda, and it's called test a valid Lambda. You can do test valid Lambdas, all kinds of things. And you can see here, first of all, you decide which Lambda, because you can have multiple pieces in your Lambda. So here I basically said, hey, my valid path to my Lambda is this guy, source main BX, okay? Then I want to instantiate a new Lambda runner, which is part of my runtime. I'm passing in my Lambda. I create my mocks, okay? You can see here I've added some mocks to the event that we talked about that we will receive. And then I basically execute right here is where you execute the Lambda, okay? And then you will have the results, just like you're executing here in Lambda. And here I'm saying, get me the body of that Lambda, and then I do my assertions, okay? Now you will have to learn a little bit of Java here. We're still in the process to see how we can migrate this to just BX and TestBox. We're not there yet, but in Java you can. And you see the little button right here. This is what we're going to be bringing into the IDE, into the BoxLang IDE. I can just right-click here. It'll compile your Lambda. It'll do everything it needs to do to run your Lambda. And then it will start it up. And you can see that it'll start executing your Lambda. It says here Lambda configured with the following path. Okay, shutdown hook triggered, shutting down the runtime, etc. And you'll see that my Lambda executed correctly. Okay, I've done my assertions, and you see now a nice little green button right here available to you. If you make a mistake, you can try in here, right? If I don't retrieve anything or throw an exception in my Lambda, so let's go and make an exception here and say throw invalid Lambda. Okay, so let's see if I can test this and see if this actually throws an exception. We'll run. Oh, exception. There it is. It gives you my invalid Lambda exception right here, invalid Lambda. And then I can start basically traversing it and see, okay, there it is. There's my Lambda execution, everything that it happened in order for my Lambda to fail. Okay? So we've done a lot. to make it easiest as possible for you to work with Lambdas. And once you are done, so let's say that you built your beautiful Lambda here, that all it does is basically gives you an error messages and data. But let's say you're done and you want to deploy this to Amazon, you've tested, everything works correctly. Like I said, we've given you a few commands. The easiest command is just say Gradle build. Okay, this will build your entire Lambda. Okay, package it the way that Amazon wants for you to deploy, and under the build folder, you will see a distribution folder. And actually, you see that it's testing your Lambda. Okay, it will fail if it doesn't pass. And now I have here distributions. So under build, you'll have a distributions folder, and here is my Lambda. Okay, it's my nice little zip. Okay, and this is what you send into AWS, and you're done. You can actually explore it. So let's explore this right here. And you can see that the Lambda that was produced basically gives you your lambda.bx, and any dependencies that it finds, it will create the whole structure for you. And you can see here that it just puts in your Lambda snapshot, which is the runtime, basically as your single dependency. If you had other Java libraries or you had other BX libraries, it will all package it for you accordingly into this zip file that then you can take into AWS and deploy it. So we've tried, like I said, we make it really, really simple for people to get started with AWS. Granted, the unit tests are right now in Java. Yes, that can be scary for some of you developers that haven't done Java. We'll try to document this even as much as possible to make it seamless and painless for you guys. Eventually, this will all be in BoxLang, but we're not there yet. But it will get there. But what you will see is what you're seeing here, including our IDE, where you're going to be able to basically run the different tests, get all the test options right from here. You can get debugging, you can do coverage, right? You can add breakpoints and all that kind of stuff. It will all come through here, and this is what we want. Okay, so God willing, we will have the majority of this BX stuff happening to you, where you can actually go in here and click on this right here, have a breakpoint, go into your test and say, I want to debug my test. And once it executes it, it's going to stop and the breakpoint, and then you can do your basically your compiler right there. Like I said, it's not there yet, but that we'll get there. All right, so that's how easy it is to get started with Lambda. In the documentation, I actually take you a step further. I think I got stuck. Close this guy. In the docs, where did they go? I think they disappeared. If you look at the runtimes, sorry. Right here on where it says deploy to the AWS, I even take you and show you how to log into your console, create a function, add the function name, choose Java 21, right? Upload your zip file. Now, granted, this is also very important. AWS added the capability for your Lambdas to be containers now. Okay, this is something new. So, and also important, you can see here, upload zip or jar file. Ours is a zip. You can also do an Amazon S3 location. So this is important. You can do it in CI and you can create your zips and send them to an S3 bucket and then just put in your location. But they also added the capability for your function to be a Docker container. And that one's even easier to do because you don't have to create these zip files. You just have to create an image. And we'll do a guide on that eventually as well. But we did the zip right now. It shows you how to test your source code, and it tells you how to run your source code. So hopefully everything is fully documented and step-by-step for people to get really started with serverless applications using BoxLang very, very easily. And if there's anything that's missing or comments or suggestions, please let us know so we can get that going and put. All right, so hopefully this gives you a very quick start with AWS Lambda.
I think we're probably out of time with that. So unless there's any questions that people want to put in the chat, we can probably let Charlie bring it home. Quick note while we wait. If you do have some questions later that you think of, you can drop them into the CFML Slack team in Box Products. You can also find the link online to our dedicated Box team. We have an entire BoxLang channel in there. And we also have our community.ortussolutions.com forum website that you can ask questions on. Or if you just mention like me on Twitter or anywhere, just there's multiple places you can ask. So if you think of something after the fact, just pop on the community forum or anywhere, and you can shoot us a question there. We'd be happy to help answer.
Right.
All right. I'm not seeing any questions, Charlie. So thanks a lot for having us on. I look forward to hearing from some of you guys soon. Here's a live look at Luis replying to Slack messages on Box Team Slack.
I guess my example was wrong.
I do not hear you, Charlie. Do you hear Charlie, Luis?
I do not hear.
Oh, yeah, I don't think your mic's working, Charlie. I do see a question from Rick Mason. As a ColdBox noob, if I want to install the Lambda server on my local machine and I want to create a REST API, then I also need to install ColdBox CB REST module in my SQL module. Are you wanting to make a REST API as an AWS Lambda or just as a web server? Probably need a bit more information on knowing where you wanted to go there. I don't know if we've played around too much with using ColdBox inside of Lambda. There's a lot of ColdBox that kind of assumes a HTTP semantic right now, which doesn't necessarily exist inside of Lambda. But I think in the future that's something we'll probably be working on.
Yeah, I know that the Lambdas allow you to do a lot more things now, which in my opinion is kind of changing the paradigm of it, because it's now allowing you to do even more apps than the traditional just a function, right?
Yeah, because Lambdas, when they were originally built, they weren't supposed to be an HTTP type thing, and REST is specifically an HTTP, semantics. So kind of interesting.
Yeah, so I know they introduced a bunch of stuff to create RESTful services with Lambdas. I have not delved into it so much. Might need the community help there. Now, please note that ColdBox does come with what's called a ColdBox proxy. So the ColdBox proxy can be executed and gives you insight into anything inside of ColdBox. So this way, the entry point is the Lambda. So you can, from that Lambda, basically execute ColdBox. So totally doable. We did it with Flex at the time, right? And for SOAP web services. So, however, we have not ventured into that. Into creating
we would have
APIs
to change the default runtime a bit to actually be able to run a web application. We didn't hit on this too hard, but the core of BoxLang doesn't know anything about web or HTTP, right? BoxLang core doesn't have a form scope, a URL scope. It doesn't have functions like get HTTP request data. They don't exist, right? That comes in the web runtime because we've broken out BoxLang to be this kind of modular thing we assemble. So if you wanted to get, and Lambdas aren't supposed to be a web-based thing. So if you wanted to do web sort of things in a Lambda, then we would need to build it on top of a runtime that included all those web pieces, many of which ColdBox probably requires to run on the box, like, get HTTP request data. So yeah, it's definitely possible, but it's something that would need a bit more thought as we get there.
So you guys can hear me now, right?
Hey, I hear you.
Hey, sorry about that. That was a weird combination of circumstances on my end. And I was talking earlier not to wrap up, but to say that yes, absolutely good time for questions. And as long as we got a moment, I'll just call out Jim Priest made this comment earlier. This is all freaking crazy, like modern and fast. There you go. Here,
that's the goal. Yes,
that you have achieved your objective. So I have a kind of a follow-on question, and it's really for the sake of the traditional CF folks that this is a CF meetup. You mentioned earlier, Brad, how you guys are helping folks who currently run CF or Lucy, whatever, to run on BoxLang. And you showed during your demo, especially how you are trying to achieve parity, and you'll identify where there's incompatibilities. But you do have it as, I want to wrap up for the sake of the traditional CF. When I say traditional, just CF. I just wanted to back up. And we should make this clear. BoxLang and you all with BoxLang are trying to reach quite a wide audience. People who don't know how to spell ColdFusion, people who've never heard of Lucy, right? People who might use it for all the powers it brings that have nothing to do with ColdFusion or Lucy. So when you give these talks, you guys naturally have a lot of stuff to communicate, and you're going to have different talks for different audiences. But I'm just saying, bringing it back to just this CF Meetup, CF audience, you showed, Brad, the ability you guys had to try to run code compatibly in and as it were natively in BoxLang. So that's a goal. One thing that isn't clear from the talk, and I'm not sure if I missed it somewhere along the way in hearing other discussions or seeing other presentations. So you showed how you could certainly run the compatibility check by just going to the command line where the folder of code lives. And so in that regard, it's similar to CommandBox. For those that are familiar with it, remember, some of our audience don't use CommandBox. But for those familiar with CommandBox, you would go to the folder where your code lives, and you could run box and name your server, and it would run that code. You just go to the folder, run it, and it runs that code.
Mm-hmm.
For CF people who don't run CommandBox, they sometimes would be like, wait, what? Where's my web server and all that stuff? So, there's a bit of a leap for those people. But now for running as it were, a BoxLang server, we want to call it that, it is conceptually the same thing, right? You go to a folder where the code lives, and one could spin up BoxLang to run that code in that folder. I know Luis earlier showed code in VS Code, and you can run things from there. But again, for those who maybe aren't living in VS Code yet, right? Do I have it right that someone could just go to the command line and through BoxLang run their CFML code in their folder where it lives? And
and you can do that either with the MiniServer, or you could do it just using CommandBox. So
and I'll get to that in a second. That's a separate question. But so you would hope that people could just run the code as it is, and as long as it's compatible with BoxLang, you guys will handle, as it were, running it. Whether you call that transpiling or compiling, you hope to run it, right? That part is correct?
Yes.
Now, if somebody wants to run it in production, I know that over time, CommandBox evolved to have the servers notion, production with services. Is such a thing yet available to run BoxLang as a service for somebody who needed to do that, whether on Windows or Linux, or is that still in the to-do?
No,
does it even make sense?
That's done. That makes perfect sense, and we're doing it ourselves. The BoxLang website is running, I think, on CommandBox Docker image in production, and we actually have users with their apps in production. Sean Corfold is someone who's talked a lot publicly. They already have their ColdFusion apps that we're running on Lucy 4. They already have them in production on BoxLang, running on CommandBox today. Even the beta builds.
Let's talk about, since you said running on CommandBox, that you kind of went by that quickly earlier. And again, you all have a lot to cover, so I didn't want to bring it up at that time.
Sure.
So if somebody...
So
go ahead, Luis.
Yeah, it's kind of like a summary, Charlie, that all the runtimes are available for you to run in production now. That's why we started the beta cuts. So basically, similar to what Clojure, and that's thanks to Sean Corfield's idea, we do weekly betas, right? And that way you can be settled, that you don't have any regressions on as we go and traverse through these betas for all the runtimes, right? So you could right now use them for production. We use them for production. So that is available to you now. CommandBox is the kind of the leading way to do it, because obviously we've invested so much time to do that CommandBox, even the CommandBox Pro versions to run multi-site and all that stuff. And Brad can maybe talk into that. But yes, you can run this right now for your code for both CFML and BoxLang code.
Yeah. And if you wanted to deploy on Tomcat, you could do that too. We just make a servlet build, a servlet war, if you were. And obviously people are used to that all kind of being tied it up in an installer. for Adobe ColdFusion. But if you just had a Tomcat installation, and you want to drop a BoxLang warrant and deploy it like you could also do with Lucy or ColdFusion, that's available today, right now, for anyone to use for either testing or production.
Fair enough. But so now let's bring it back to the CommandBox approach. So, and let's be clear for people who it's a lot to keep everything straight. One could just run a BoxLang server, if we want to call it that runs your code. And as long as your CFML code matches the compatibility of BoxLang, there's nothing more to it than it will run in BoxLang magically under the covers insofar as how it's made to run. That's part of what you guys bring to the table, is that you can just run CFML. And by the way, if they do that, there's no license from Adobe. It's not ColdFusion. It's not Lucy. It's BoxLang running CFML. It's like BoxLang is yet another CFML engine that can run CFML code, just like Lucy was and Blue
And
Dragon.
you can do it side by side. It's based on the file extensions. So if you hit index.bxm, BoxLang says, I'm going to use the BoxLang parser. You hit index.cfm, BoxLang says, oh, I'm going to use the ColdFusion parser and run it inside ColdFusion compatibility. But you're right. We didn't really mention it earlier. BoxLang is open source and free under the Apache 2.0 license, just like the rest of our libraries. And then, of course, it's also professionally supported by Ortus. So if you want support, if you want, an SLA and those kind of things, you can get that from us. You're not just kind of, good luck, right? Like some open source things are, you're on your own. But if you want to use it for free without a license, it's Apache 2.0 open source. And yes, what you said is exactly true. You could put it in production right now.
Correct. Yeah. So the word will be, it's a drop-in replacement. That's what we want. We want a drop-in replacement for your Adobe apps and your Lucy apps. That's what we wanted in order to be successful. Is that, imagine all the 18 years of code that we've done, all the modules, all the stuff that we built, everything has to run. So that means that it is a drop-in replacement using the right modules, right? It will be a drop-in replacement for Adobe and Lucy. You have two choices. You can go with the open source version. You support yourself. You do whatever you want. Or you can go with our commercial edition, right, which basically gives you more features, and it gives you more kind of enterprise features and support.
Yep, fair enough. And I just want to clarify for folks to keep this all in their head. So one approach would be your CFML just runs natively on BoxLang. And that's where native means what to who. I'm just saying you could conceivably run somebody's app as is, assuming it's compatible, and BoxLang alone will run it. We've agreed now. That's one way. Some people, your ultimate goal will be people should be able to do that, and there will be all kinds of great benefits to people doing that. But as a bridge, let's just make it sure people understand this. As a bridge, one could run CommandBox inside of BoxLang and tell it to run, for example, a CF, you call it an Adobe engine, a CF engine, that would run inside of BoxLang as it were, but it's CommandBox having implemented a CFML engine, and then that will literally run the code against ColdFusion implemented as a CommandBox server, if you want to call it that.
I don't have CommandBox fully running on BoxLang, but that's absolutely the goal, is that CommandBox itself will be powered by a BoxLang under the hood, and then, as you said, could start up anything.
Well, when you talked earlier about having a BoxLang, a CommandBox implementation, how is that differ? What is there now versus what you envision?
Well, when I demoed starting a server with CommandBox, I was still using the traditional Lucy-powered CLI that we have on our download page, but I was spinning up a BoxLang CF engine, which is the war, right? The actual server that I'm starting. So CommandBox.
So you were starting. So let's just be clear for everybody. You were running CommandBox to run a BoxLang server, as it were, right? Yeah.
CommandBox today is still powered by Lucy. We haven't had a chance to change that over. Ultimately, it'll all be powered by BoxLang, but we're doing it in pieces here.
So today, someone cannot.
So CommandBox is kind of the orchestrator, right? So CommandBox is the orchestrator, has always been an orchestrator to basically easily deploy and run any type of server, whether it be a Java server, plain Java, whether it be HTML server, whether it be Adobe, whether it be Lucy, whether it be BoxLang. So CommandBox can speak all of that in order to basically produce a server for you, right? Now, the actual CommandBox source code, right, is a mixture of Java and CFML code that is packaged with the Lucy runtime. That will change as we're now moving that into a BoxLang runtime. So kind
it's
of
very Inception
mixture
like.
of things.
So for now, you could have CommandBox
Yes.
running BoxLang. In the future, you'll be able to have BoxLang running CommandBox. Now, what I'm getting at, though, is do you ever envision, and I just want to help everybody connect the dots, that there would be a way that someone could run their CFML against what today would be called a CommandBox Adobe CF engine inside of BoxLang, or would that not make any sense? No one will ever do that. So therefore, the only way one would be able to run CFML truly on BoxLang will be for you to run it the way you're trying to make it be that it can run it. That'll be the only way. Is that right?
I have no clue what you just asked. Sorry.
Well, that's why I said it's kind of weird because the Inception thing of BoxLang running CommandBox and CommandBox
I
running
think you're
Box.
thinking too hard about CommandBox. It's a black box. Forget it. It's written in Python. Don't worry
Well,
about
that's
it.
a simpler
It doesn't really
question.
matter what it's written in. It's just a thing. It's an executable.
No, here's my simpler question. Will BoxLang ever run CFML through an Adobe engine in any way on BoxLang?
No, I mean, BoxLang was written from scratch, right?
Right, I agree, and I didn't think so.
We started with an empty Git repository, and we put all the code in that repository, and nothing came from anybody else. We didn't borrow code from Adobe, didn't borrow code from Lucy. It's all our code, and we run ColdFusion. We just parse it to the same specification, and we have a runtime that runs the same as their runtime. But we're not using any other CF engine behind the scenes to run.
And I understood that to be true right now, but when you said you guys will be implementing CommandBox as something you can run inside of BoxLang, well, CommandBox. Well, that's why I want to help you make sure people are clear. You're not going to be able to run any CommandBox server the way you can today in BoxLang.
No, it's the same. So remember, CommandBox is just a tool for package management and for server orchestration and the actual what's called the servlet specification, right? What we use Undertow. So that will never change, right? It will still run any server, any Adobe server, any Lucy server. That will never change. The way that we wrote CommandBox will change, right? So we're going to take out one engine and put another engine into CommandBox, but it will still do the same thing that it has always done, right?
I guess what you're saying is that you're going to rewrite CommandBox in BoxLang. One will still use CommandBox the way they currently use it. They won't even know that it's running in BoxLang. Got it?
If you take a Ford and you put a Chevy motor in it, you still turn the key and push the gas and turn the steering wheel. The API you interact with it doesn't change. What's under the covers is an implementation detail.
Yeah, so that will never change, right? So we're just yanking the V8 engine that's there and putting in a V24.
I mean, the outward things people will notice is CommandBox will get smaller and CommandBox will get faster when we do that. But it'll still
there might be benefits that CommandBox gets for being in the BoxLang environment, as it were.
Correct.
But the CFML running inside of an Adobe engine inside of that is still just CFML running inside of an Adobe engine the way it runs today on CommandBox that happens to be powered by Lucy. And that's where some people would go, wait, what? ColdFusion running on a CommandBox that's really powered by Lucy? Don't worry about it.
When we say run on, we're spawning a separate Java process.
Yeah, it's a war. I get it, run war and all that. I do.
We're just using it as an orchestrator to fire out.
I just wanted to make sure there wasn't anything about that changing when it's on, when CommandBox is running.
No, I think that in theory, you wouldn't even that was a huge. That was a huge success of CommandBox.
And that's all you would notice.
Yep. Yeah. And what were you saying, Luis? I missed that.
No, that was the something that we always wanted, right? Is to create servers on the fly, manage them really easy. That was the purpose of CommandBox, right? Granted, we started writing CommandBox in Node at one point, so it wouldn't matter in which language we wrote it, right? But happily, we ended up writing it in our own language, right? But yeah, that will never change. That's something that has been great for all our customers, and want to keep it that way. but just we're pulling out the engine and pulling our engine in, right?
If you look at things like Golang,
execute everything.
The entire Golang runtime is like 8 megabytes, right? So you can make an exe out of Golang, and it's super small. And even with CommandBox and as portable as it was, we still couldn't even approach those sizes. If a full installation of Lucy with its typical set of modules can turn into about 200 or 300 megabytes of jars on your hard drive just to have the Lucy runtime. And Lucy Lite is smaller, but it's still around 100 megabytes of jars on your hard drive. And that's why the entire BoxLang runtime is a single jar, not a whole folder of bundles in 7 different places. A single jar of 6 megs, and that's it. Now we can finally compete with people making small portable tools in Golang that are like 9 freaking megabytes, because we finally have a 6 megabyte jar, but does everything the other guys did, but in this tiny small little package now. And that's what can take CommandBox to the next level for us. The ability to now have it even smaller, faster, and more portable.
Yep. But for those who say, well, I need to run in an Adobe CFM engine, they're never going to achieve that benefit through the fact that CommandBox is running in BoxLang. They're only going to really get that benefit when they run their code, as it were, natively in BoxLang by it transpiling it, right? Because it's just, again, it's so easy for people to get lost in the weeds when they're on the outside looking in. BoxLang is a language of its own, and you're going to reach new audiences building cool new things with that. That's its own whole world. But when we talk just about CFML, you're providing also the ability to run CFML, because you guys know and love CFML. One can run CFML. Then, and really in the future, there's going to basically be, as far as Ortus is concerned, there's going to be 2 ways to run CFML. One is run it, as it were, natively in BoxLang. You will do the transpiling. It'll just run. You hope that it'll be fully compatible, and it's already considerably there now. Or people could run CommandBox as they do now. It just so happens that CommandBox will be written in BoxLang, but they'll use it the same way they've always used it. They can run an Adobe CF engine if they want to. I just think that some people, when they're watching all this from the outside, they could kind of get lost in the weeds of that distinction. And I'm glad we were able to make it. Sorry that I belabored it for a few minutes, but
no
seen the discussion.
I'll complicate it more for you.
Go for it.
Once we're done with this phase, and BoxLang with its multi-parser can actually run and be a drop-in replacement for ColdFusion, right? We're moving next into Groovy. So we'll have another parser, another module, basically to bring in Groovy code, and it will execute natively in BoxLang.
Right.
Okay? And then we've also made it where we can actually get other JSR 223 languages, such as Python, PHP, and JavaScript, and we can actually code in those 3 languages inside of BoxLang through our scripting framework that we've done. We actually have Python already running, so you can actually have Python code. Maybe you have a language model that you're interacting with through a Python library or whatever. You can keep that Python code, you wrap it into our BX-Jython module, and you can run it inside of BoxLang. Yep. So we're thinking of adapting more languages and making BoxLang this middle point, this middleware for all kinds of languages.
Exactly. And that's where people have to understand that BoxLang is a much bigger concept than most people seem to really be grokking when they hear about it, because there's just so much to get your head around. But I saw from the very first presentation, wow, this is one of those, you guys are going to be reaching out to the whole world of, essentially.
The average ColdFusion developer may only care, but they can take their ColdFusion app and just run it without a license.
Right.
But our plan involves world domination.
Right.
So we're looking at Java developers, Node developers, Ruby developers. Like, we want to create something that is a revolution bigger than just, can I run my ColdFusion code? But for the sake of this particular presentation, we focus more on the ColdFusion.
Oh, absolutely. And some of these conceptual leaps that you're helping people make in the CFML world, you will then be able to help people make in the Groovy world or in the Python world. You'll go through that same notion.
If anybody's interested in some of the stuff we didn't talk about that we're putting into the BoxLang side of things, if you go to the community forum, I've written a whole series of blog posts on there over the last few weeks detailing a bunch of just the Java interop changes we've done. crazy stuff that ColdFusion's never allowed us to do. We always hit this wall, right? I want to use this Java library, but I can't extend a Java class. I want to use this Java, part of the JDK, but I can't pass my closure in as a Lambda. There's all sorts of stuff, functional method binding, things that Java does that makes it more advanced in ColdFusion these days, which kills us. We're like, how is Java ahead of us, right? There's a whole bunch of posts you can read where there's all these things we've added to BoxLang now that's brought it back up to speed, and it all lives in the BoxLang side of our stuff. So you want to run your ColdFusion as it is, great. It'll do whatever ColdFusion does today. But you can also look and see the cookies we have on the other side of the wall that you want to maybe take, a ColdFusion file, transpile it to BoxLang, and now actually dabble with the BoxLang features we've added. That's the value add. Or if you don't care, run as ColdFusion for the rest of your life. That works too. But
and as simply as you can run it as an EXE, right? There may be a time when you guys will envision, like with Go, that someone could convert some CFML into an EXE, and BoxLang will do that.
No, and we're already doing that, experiments on this, where we actually package even CommandBox as an EXE. So we are already dabbling into these areas. It will come because we already have proof of concepts internally, being able to wrap your entire application. That's what we call the packaging. Into simple binary that you can then deploy. So this is already happening on our end. They will eventually come in that area. But you'll see two tones coming out of Ortus on this, right? You'll see the tone where we're breaching the broader world, right? Mostly the Java world, right? Try to bring them into a more dynamic language. The dynamic languages have really been stagnant for a long time. So we're trying to really improve that. That's why we want that Groovy parser, is to start bringing in those dynamic languages, barriers broken into the Java world. And then you'll see our CFML ColdFusion tone, right? Which is basically we're a drop-in replacement, 50% cheaper than Adobe. It'll run better, run faster, whatever you want to say it, right? But so you'll see both communications, right, coming out of Ortus.
And I've been feeling from the beginning that that's what showed that this is so much more than meets the eye to a lot of people when they start hearing about it. And I just couldn't imagine a group of people able to do it better than you guys. I mean, from day one, I thought, oh, yes, this is an amazing goal. It's like the moonshot. And you guys are the NASA that are going to make it happen. I'm confident that it will. Hey, before we move on, you just threw out something in passing that I think bears clarification. You said 50% of the cost of Adobe.
Mm-hmm.
So that's for the professional supported version. Is that what you meant?
Yes, probably more, because we don't care about your cores, we don't care about your memory, we don't care about a bunch of stuff. We make it really simple. It's about 50% or more cheaper for having a supported version with the enterprise features, right? So there's still a lot of enterprise features that we're still building, but those will be part of the Plus and the Plus subscriptions.
There you go. And we didn't really talk much about those. I remember at the end of the box when you talked about the Plus and the Plus, and who knows, there may be a Plus. But
who knows? Where does it end?
That's right. But in summary, someone who's currently running Lucy or ColdFusion, and if they're a Lucy person, they don't pay anything right now, or if they're a ColdFusion person, they're not upgrading their ColdFusion because they don't want to pay for a new upgrade.
Sure.
So they're contemplating Lucy. Both of those audiences will be considering now running just natively in BoxLang.
Correct.
And they will be able to run it for free in production with the community edition. But if they want certain benefits, then they're going to want the Pro or Plus.
Correct. So that doesn't change. And we don't charge per version. So that's another point, is that we charge per year. So you can go and upgrade as you see fit. We don't want to restrict you in your upgrades. Right, we'll restrict you in terms of the extra features that you want, right, which are, they're documented on the website, and the support, right, and you can get even into 24/7 support if you wanted to with us. So those are the things that we thought was fair for you to pay, right? Obviously, we do a lot of stuff that's free, right? So we do expect some fairness to go in some of these things that obviously doing open source, right? So we try to put as much as possible that is available out of our time, right? But at the end of the day, we're our business, so we have those two versions.
Brad, did you have anything you'd wanted to get out? I didn't want to step on you.
No.
Well, just last thing before we wrap up, I wanted to say, in addition to your blog post you mentioned, Brad, we should also make sure, you guys might have said it, but I want to repeat it. Your cfcasts.com, you guys have several BoxLang talks of various stripes already there, right?
Yeah, there's a lot more coming as well.
And among those BoxLang ones are many that are free. You don't have to be a paid subscriber to CFcasts. Many of those BoxLang ones are free, right?
Correct. And I'll give you a sneak peek, Charlie. So something that we're in discussions here. So so there's
Just
a new
between us. Nobody else
CFcast
knows.
coming.
This is just between us.
A new CFcast will come, basically called learn.boxlang.io. It will be a dedicated casting learning platform just for BoxLang. It will be registered, so you have to register, but everything most likely will be free until we have enough content. But when you get a CFcast subscription, you will get one subscription as well for Learn BoxLang or the BoxLang Academy. And if you get one for the BoxLang Academy, you can also have access to CFcast. So we're basically doing a very specific casting platform just for BoxLang, and you will have access to both if you're a subscriber as well.
That's awesome. You guys just have so many wonderful ideas, and it's just hard for people to keep track. So those who are into the world already know it. Those who are on the outskirts, when you pay attention, it's just amazing the stuff you guys do. And that's why I feel confident, from having watched for so many years, that if anybody can pull this off, you guys can. So again, thank you very much for coming on and giving us the insights today that you did.
Thanks for having us, Charlie.
You bet. And good luck with it all. And if others have follow-up questions, he shared many ways to do it. I don't see any other ones, so we'll let you guys get on to the rest of your day. We've gone a couple hours. That's a long one for us, but I'm okay with it. It was all valuable stuff. And if you have another one that's of a CFML bent in the future, feel free. We can have you on again.
Sounds great.
You bet. Talk to you guys later.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.